That's a real good point. Why do things generally have to make noises at this point?
Right, yeah, phone, on mute, fucking everything makes noise.
This is actually a thing between myself and my fiance, because she has to hear from people for like work phone calls and contacts and messages and all these sorts of things, and she's really doesn't like to be missing these things for any reason, whereas my shit is on mute all the time. Also, on a unrelated tangent, I miss messages from her frequently, so not a lot of ammunition in that fight.
Fighting the good fight, though.
Yeah, I'm losing.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Press X to Podcast. It's the podcast from your friends at CoD Connected. And for the second time in a row, we've got a different cast of characters here, a different crew. You still got me. I'm still the funny face you call Paul. And back again on the rotating chair for the second cast in a row, we got Trevor Houston. He's rotating. Look at him go.
I'm actually rotating on my chair. Yeah, hey, it's good to be back. Really good to be back.
Welcome.
In HD, which is kind of, I don't know. That could be good or bad.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It decreases our shelf life, maybe. You know,
the years haven't been kind.
If we were recording onto VHS, we'd have plenty of years left.
Yeah, that's right.
Just a little bit muddy around the edges.
That's right.
And back from his indisposition, James Paley, how are you, friend?
Just fantastic, guys. Just fucking, just delightful. Just a delightful time.
Can't believe it. And you've been off this podcast for such a long time. I can't believe that you might have any less than a dozen games to talk about.
I mean, it's a little less than a dozen.
Okay.
It's not exactly a solid 12, you know. A lot less than a baker's dozen, we'll say. 4, some might describe it as, which is, you know, totally different number game we're talking here. But yeah, I got some games.
yeah, I got some games. It's been a pretty good little stretch here for games. I've played quite a few things that I'm pretty impressed with lately.
Yeah.
It's all good. Up and to the right, baby. Video games. Let's dive right into it. Let's just talk about games. Who's got something they're absolutely pumped about?
I do.
Ooh.
Psychonauts 2 is fantastic. It truly is fantastic. It's funny because it's really not a game that was on my radar. I don't consider myself one of the OG fans of the original game, which came out 16, 17-ish years ago. So it kind of came and went, but I had an opportunity to jump into a preview build about a month ago, and I fell in love with it then. I just absolutely loved everything about it. The colorful characters, the different powers, the world, it's just sort of uniqueness, and its progression system. It's just much deeper than I anticipated, and I'm only a few hours in, so it's a game that I'm looking forward to returning to over and over until I get through it. I think there's just, if you have Game Pass on Xbox, you absolutely need to download it. It's just one of those can't miss games that I'm really happy that I had an opportunity to play it recently. So yeah.
Yep, really been enjoying it as well. I can't remember who, so apologies to whoever this person is, but saw somebody online describe it as a great reminder of why platformers used to be the number one genre in games. It's got everything that was great about that genre going for it. That it controls really tightly. There's enough stuff going on that you're not getting bored. And the main thing that's been sticking out to me is the level design. Like how
awesome.
Unique and different it is from level to level. It wildly creative on that side of things. I think it gets pulled back a little bit for me, and probably this is to do with having very recently played Ratchet and Clank. It feels like an older game. So it's got all those platforming things that are great. But if it didn't look so sharp on a Series X, it could be an Xbox game or it could be a PS2 game. There's a lot of commonality there with just how many freaking collectibles there are and how much of the gameplay is driven by grabbing collectibles. And it's not a bad thing, you know. It just is what it is. But like Jazz said in our review of this one, really surprised how deep it is on the story side and how much emotional resonance there is in a game that is quote unquote wacky. Been really impressed with that side of things.
Yeah, I love the way that you use all the different powers, and and this could be just showing my age here. I did find there was a bit of a learning curve for me, especially just managing all the different powers at your disposal, especially the way you can assign different things. And if you assign something to like a right bumper and then you change assigning that specific power to another button, it just screws me right up. So that part drove me a little bit crazy. It would have been nice if it used some sort of a power wheel or something like that was a little less cumbersome. But the powers that you do use, like that mental connection, which was basically a grapple hook mechanic, I thought is ingenious, and it's just really satisfying and fun to use that. And you're right, Paul. The level design is it blew me away. It really blew me away. And you're right. You never get bored. It's kind of one of those games that's really hard to get bored because right from the get go, you're flying through these levels, collecting and battling and doing all sorts of things. It's really cool.
I'm actually really surprised the level design aspect of this didn't come into the marketing, or it wasn't something that Microsoft pushed as being a selling point of this game, because, you know, I remember seeing it at E3 a few years ago and seeing things that were wildly different than what they had shown in screenshots and shown other places, and being so impressed and so blown away by how cool everything they showed was. And it's the case in this final product. But I think it's probably a missed opportunity to have shown that off a little bit more and pushed a few, I don't know, 1,000 more Game Pass subs or whatever, get people to want to try this thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure it will be a Game Pass seller. It could be. It should be. Mm-hmm. But if I had spent, you know, the whatever we pay for new games nowadays, $79.99, $89.99 probably for most AAA games nowadays, at least up here in Canada, I'd have no problem spending that. I'd hesitate, but then I'd be really happy I did spend it, because it is a game I think you could sink a ton of time in, and there is so much in the way of collecting and progression that you really should take your time in all these levels and really soak it all in.
Speaking of Game Pass, something I probably knew was on Game Pass but hadn't thought about in a long time that I jumped back into a little bit was Destiny 2.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that little thing from Activision? The Bungie folk?
The Bungie boys.
The Bungie boys.
It's still going strong, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they got new content out, and people are all up in that shit.
Yeah, I think they called it the Witch Queen. Is their new expansion that's coming out, and it looks pretty rad. But even jumping back in, having not played it for years and years and years, they've got a lot of work put in on the back end, I assume, to make it so I could jump back in and have a good time immediately.
Wow.
Right where I left off, you know, they've got rid of a lot of the light systems and things that were limiting factors on jumping into any of the content that they've built. A lot of that's gone. And you can kind of just go and bop around to any of the DLC that they've created and just have a really good time. That's still the best feeling shooter out there.
So a big part of Destiny is leveling up and, you know, being effective with your weaponry. Mm-hmm. Now, I've been away from Destiny 2 for probably at least a couple of years. Mm-hmm. If I decided to jump back in tomorrow, I feel like I'd be just so underpowered. How would I even enjoy it? How would I even compete? So, but you say you can get right back into it, and
yeah, even
you're not getting destroyed.
Yeah, the base level of light that they give you is sufficient to go and take on pretty much anything. And yeah, you still go up from there, but the playing field is relatively even, at least in the PvE setting. And yeah, so I'm really excited to go and play some of the DLC that I've completely missed, and even get into some of the raids, possibly just because they've made it a lot easier and more approachable to do that. They've still got a lot of different materials and things that you have to collect if you want to get legendary gear and whatnot. But the Game Pass version, it includes their whatever the most recent DLC bundle is, Beyond Light, I think it was called. So it's got that. So you get all the pre-order bonuses that came with that expansion, and a lot of that is legendary gear. So you're feeling pretty rad right off the bat. Would definitely recommend going back to that. If you're a fan of shooters at all, this is still the best feeling shooter out there. Bungie's craft in that sense has never been better.
It's always been sort of one of those satisfyingly smooth shooters and combat. It's always had that. I don't know why I never really stuck with it. Just never been my thing. I always feel like it's one of those games where if you had like a small crew to play with, it would just be all the more satisfying. And we'll probably get to having a crew and playing Halo, or not having a crew and not being able to play Halo later. But I feel like Destiny's really one of those games that's built for playing with friends. Mm-hmm. And that's never quite been my thing when it comes to gaming in general. Not lately in my advanced age.
Yeah, and from a how the game feels to play perspective, it's never been better than it is on the Series X or the PS5. Now you're at 60 frames a second. They've added a field of view slider so you can crank that puppy way up and see more of the landscape while you're playing. It kind of zooms the camera back a little bit so you can see more. Nice. Find that to be a big help, because that when there's a zillion things on screen, it's a lot easier to kind of manage what you're looking at with a wider field of view.
Nice.
James, what have you been up to?
Honestly, of all the games I've been fucking around with for the last couple of weeks, I think the one that I ended up with the most positive impression of was the Quake Remaster.
Yeah, you scored that a high score. Wasn't that like a 90?
It's a 90. It's a 90. 9 out of 10. Because as far as remasters go, it does everything you could ever ask for from a fucking remaster, because it cleans everything up so it looks nice and crisp, but you're not like fucking with the original graphics too much, so it looks about the way you remember it. It's got all of the DLC content, including like a new mission pack that Machine Games came up with. It's got mod support, and one of the first mod that you get access to on launch is just Quake 64. It's just all of Quake 64. So like if you want to, nice. If you're like, man, I want to play that version, you can absolutely do that. And I didn't really give a shit about gyroscopic aiming. Like that didn't really feel like it added anything for me. I guess like to have that end regular aiming, you can kind of like work with the two in tandem, so it feels cool in that sense. But like everything else was really, really fucking solid, and it was really hard to find any serious flaws in it. I mean, like, yes, the game is ugly as shit, but it's also like a quarter of a century old, and that's a long time in video games. Oh. And the controls are still like fucking nice and laser precise, and like the multiplayer, oh my god, holy shit, it was time travel. You go into a multiplayer match, and it's just like immediately you're right there again. Everybody's using rockets all the time, and you're like dying like seconds after you launch. You like stumble around a corner, you just like unload a bunch of shit on like 4 people, and 3 of them die, and you're like, ah! It's amazing.
It's amazing how satisfying a rocket launcher kill is, isn't it?
Yeah, the gibs are flying, and the weapons are free and easy, and everybody's got way too much ammunition, way too fast, and people are just blowing up everywhere. Man, I had forgotten how fucking frantic Quake multiplayer is, but you get right back into it, and it's pretty damn easy to set up matches. And there's crossplay.
So that not only includes like the multiplayer, but that includes all the campaigns. Because isn't there a bunch of campaigns included? Yeah. So you get a ton of content by the sounds of it.
Yeah. If you're like, man, I wish I had more of these levels to run around, some little puzzles to solve, and weird traps to get murdered in, then fuck, man, you're set to jet. You're ready to rock.
Nice.
I think it was back when I was reviewing Doom Eternal, but whatever package we got for that came with the Doom 64 remake remaster, and I got caught playing that for like hours until I finally tore myself away from it to go, okay, you have to play the new one because you have to review it. But fuck, Doom 64 is amazing. It's so good.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
All those 64 first-person shooters. Underrated.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, once you give them modern control schematics, because that's the thing that you need to make a Nintendo 64 shooter work. Because if you try playing, like GoldenEye, for example, with an actual controller from back in the day, your fingers will break. You'll just try to juke when you should have jived, and you'll snap to your fucking bones just right there and then. They're so bad, guys. They're so bad. Well, we didn't know what we could have had, or what we should have had, or what we deserved when we were using those hellish fucking controllers.
It's back at the Nintendo's wild days.
Yeah.
You know, when they knew that they could do no wrong and people would buy whatever they made. So, hey, here's a trident. You're going to have to hold it for the next 5 to 10 years. Good luck.
Yeah. Quake Remastered fucking rips, though. Like, it's like $10 American, $13 Canadian.
Yeah.
Like.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Dirt cheap.
Yeah. If you're like, man, I miss Quake. I wonder if it's as good as I remember.
$10.
It is. Yeah. So man,
good.
Get after it. The only thing, this is another problem I had, because I'm one of the lucky people to have a PlayStation 5 as well as a PlayStation 4, is that the multiplayer shit and the downloading add-ons does not work on PS5. Just heads up. Yeah. Just does not. Not yet. They're making it. The PS5 and the Xbox Series X versions are coming, but they weren't out on launch day. I haven't been following. I don't know when those are happening, but I just loaded up on my PS4, which is right over here, and it worked immediately. And it was incredibly easy. Yeah.
That's a good point. Trev, I know you played something a little bit retro as well.
Yeah, it was. I mean, being Canadian, being a hockey guy, I think, and being in my advanced age, I think we've all played NHL 94 at some point. I feel like it's just kind of one of those rite of passage. We played NHL 94, and of course, hours and hours as a kid. So I'm like, I need to try NHL 94 Rewind just to see what it's like. And oh man, it's it's nice to go down memory lane with all the new rosters and stuff. I mean, I played with Montreal, of course, but there's go Habs go for all the Habs fans out there. Yeah. Played with Montreal, and I played against Tampa. I decided to do a Stanley Cup rematch type thing, and I ended up losing with 30 seconds left. Those greasy Tampa Bay Lightning scored, and they won 6-5. And so parts of the game was fun, but at the same time, I'm like, ugh, it's tough to go back. It doesn't control nice. I'm fighting with the controls. I'm fighting with the passing. The players don't do what you want them to do. Carey Price scored in his own net twice. Like, it was just so... There was many parts to the experience that were so frustrating. So, I don't know. I think it's kind of one of those things. I'll dabble with it a little bit, and then just give me NHL 22. Just give me the new NHL. I just prefer it. I prefer the clean visuals, the crispness, where things are spot on and accurate. It was tough to go back to 94, but we'll see. I'll try a few more games. I don't know if they have like a mode where you can play with like the old Blackhawks and use Jeremy Roenick, because remember how dominant Jeremy Roenick used to be? To be insane in that game. So it would be nice if you can go back and play with those. The Larmer, Roenick, Goulet line.
Classic.
and play it that way. But yeah, I played a little bit of NHL 94 Rewind, and I don't know. I could see why it's not. I don't think it's that popular. It was tough to go back. It's not like Quake by the sounds of it.
That seems like more of a couch co-op or like a PvP kind of situation where you got to be playing with your buds, right? Like that's how you recreate that experience. The old hockey games are way more fun when it's another human being you're fucking throwing down with. Where if you're just trying to like fuck with whatever rudimentary AI or you know what I mean, like it's not the same, man. It's just,
no.
It's no good.
Like they're making crisp passes. They're barreling down for breakaways, just slicing through my defense like Swiss cheese. Like it took me a lot just to claw back and tie the game up, and then with 30 seconds left, just a greasy, cheesy goal that was just like, I'm done with this game. So
that's like the holy grail of remastering old games, though, because we all want them to play like we remember them playing. And NHL 94 Rewind does play like NHL 94, because NHL 94 controlled like crap.
Yes.
Like top to bottom. The exception to that rule is something like Quake that did control amazing in the past and can be translated exactly as it was perfectly. But for most games, I think you got to go the route of something like when they made Streets of Rage 4. That game controls thoroughly modernly, has all the features that people these days have come to expect, but feels like an old game. I think if they had updated NHL 94's controls and some of the user experience to be a little bit more friendly to people with modern day sensibilities, be a lot more successful. But that's also development time that probably they didn't want to dump into that thing.
Yeah, quite possibly. And just like give us the ability. We don't want to use I don't want to use the new players. Give us the old rosters. I want to go back and play with some of those players from like the early 90s and like that's kind of what I want to go back to. I don't really want to play with I like the Habs and all, but I don't want to play with the modern players. I want to play with some of the old school guys. So
yeah.
It is what it is.
Maybe someday.
Someday.
Someday they'll come out with an NHL 96 Rewind.
Something like that.
The other one that people always look back on fondly. Somebody at EA is thinking about that.
Oh, I'm sure.
How could we sell player packs in NHL 96 Rewind?
We got to be able to add micros in here somehow.
Let's get it done.
We gotta suck them dry.
Make it happen. James, what else have you been up to? Since you got 4 games, you've got to go again here.
Okay. I think next on my list is probably
Sonic.
Let's talk about something that I did not like quite as much as Quake Remastered. How about?
Okay.
I had to go to Montreal for some family biz, which is why I wasn't at the last podcast. So I took 2 games with me on my Switch. One of them was Boyfriend Dungeon, which I will get to. The other one was Witch Spring 3, and that's part of the title. I think the full one is Witch Spring 3 Refine the Story of Arity, I think. It's a
oh no,
big, gross mouthful of a game. So, here's the deal. It was a mobile game where you play as a witch and you bring dolls to life to do your bidding, and you do so through like crafting and item harvesting and stuff like that. It's actually a very interesting system mechanically. It's got some little weird vestigial stuff from the mobile incarnation where like you have to wait a certain amount of time before you can do like training, and you don't level up through combat, so you have to do all this weird bullshit to get stronger, which I'm normally fine with. That's cool, that's whatever. There's just 1 or 2 tiny little problems that kept me from wanting to like put a lot of time into this game. Primarily, oh damn, is the translation ever rough. like maybe they used a built-in browser translator for this bad boy, or like they did it via well, no, they did Final Fantasy VII via spreadsheet back in the day, so like none of the phrases connected to each other, but each individual line of text that was translated made sense, right? It's just some of it didn't line up, like there was no context for any of it, so a lot of it just sort of felt weird. This isn't like that. This is like they had one guy doing the work. They brought him in very late in the game. They gave him a very tight deadline. Did not have a lot of time for revisions.
Okay.
It was at first it's fine. At first it's fine. You don't even notice it. You get a couple of lines from the protagonist. You're like, okay, whatever, a little quirky, fine. It's a Korean game originally. I guess they just, translation. It's a fine art. Not everybody can afford the really good shit. I was whatever. But playing along, doing the weird crafty bullshit. It's great. It's fun. I love that nonsense. Then we get to a first really big dialogue scene. And what happens is they introduce like 3 new characters, and you're sitting down for some sort of awkward dinner conversation. And here, it completely falls apart. Here, like, syntax and like grammar and like spelling just kind of slide off the page slowly, bit by bit, until you're like translating what you're reading, because it's not exactly English, but it resembles English, so you more or less know what they're getting at, but like it really undercuts a lot of the dramatic tension. To be fair, I'm only like 60% sure of like where the plot went after a certain point, because what came out of the character's mouths was fucking gibberish. Yeah. So there's a lot of weird grindy nonsense you had to do to make any forward progress. So that kind of like impeded your like momentum and like fucks up the moment to moment. And the translation is complete dog shit and like needs so much work. Yeah.
I got a question.
So Witch Spring 3 is shouldn't be on your must buy list, right? Not on a must buy list.
Jesus, no.
I got a question.
Got it.
Yeah.
Is there a Witch Spring 1 and 2?
Yeah, I think so.
There must be.
I think they're connected in that like the wacky mechanical systems are kind of like what's slowly evolving, and the world is mostly the same. But I think this third one is like it just tells a story of a completely different character, so it didn't feel very important to know any of the backstory for the previous 2 games. Like I never felt like I was missing anything. Although I was, because again, not totally clear what people were saying most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll definitely avoid that.
Yep. Noted.
Even if we hadn't talked about it, I probably would have avoided it, given that I'd never heard of it.
Yeah.
It was a deep cut. It was a COD connected deep cut review.
Yeah. Trevor threw that in my lap, and boy, off for the races we were. Yeah.
Hey, bud.
I got something you can play on the plane.
Yeah. Do me a solid and take on Witch Spring 3, would you? Well, something that I had heard of that I played a little bit of this past little bit here, because it was in beta over the weekend, or at least until the end of Saturday, Riders Republic, which is that Ubisoft open world extreme sports thing. That's pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah. I kind of liked it.
That's surprising.
Yeah. I mean, they did Steep before, and Steep was a deeply flawed experience that I kind of liked anyway because it had potential. You know, it had that you can go to the top of this mountain and you can go down it. You can go down it however you want. And this really doubles down on that in true Ubisoft fashion. If you open up the map, there are icons everywhere, most of which are other players extreme sportsing all over the land. but all kinds of events and all that stuff too. Various different sports. And all the sports I tried actually feel pretty good. Things like downhill biking, they felt appropriately weighty and like you had to do things right in order to, make a turn and kind of drift around corners. And the snowboarding felt pretty good. And there's kind of a jetpack thing that you can do. I don't know. I think it's pretty promising.
That's cool.
Especially if you got a little crew of people. I could see just going off into the wilds and doing some extreme sports nonsense could be pretty fun. So,
oh, we got a visitor.
Yeah. It's usually about halfway through the podcast, the cat shows up. Yeah, I don't know.
Now, is that out this year? No. Is it?
I don't know.
Is it?
I thought maybe it was going to be out this year, but I didn't actually check. So, maybe.
Like you, before you went into this, I know little to nothing about it. It's just hasn't quite been on the radar.
It's another February game.
Oh, good. Yes. Yeah, we'll be talking about that too.
Yeah,
there's a few of them.
Yeah, one or two.
Yeah, I found myself really enjoying games like that. I did a really simple downhill biking one a few months ago, and I loved it. It was a blast. And
yeah, I appreciated it in this one. They didn't feel the need to overcomplicate the controls. There's no rhythmically pulling triggers or anything to try and pedal. It's just, hey, hold this down if you want to pedal and go faster, and hold this down if you want to brake and slide around. But yeah, it looks great. I played it on PS5, and I don't know, depending on how big and how diverse the world is, I could see this being something that I would want to spend a lot of time with. And not so much as I have a goal in mind and I want to keep playing this because I want to get to the end, but as a really great palate cleanser between other things that are either emotionally heavier or mechanically heavier, because it's just some nonsense. Just roll down the hill and go through some gates, or fly this jetpack around, or whatever it is you're doing. Do some tricks, backflips and stuff. Yeah, all the sports I played felt very believable.
Awesome.
The skiing and snowboarding felt a lot like you would expect a AAA snowboarding game to feel like. So, grain of salt there, obviously. They might fuck it up in the end, but feels pretty good so far.
Well, that's promising.
Absolutely. And given that Ubisoft doesn't have a whole lot on the go, it seems like lately, nice to see him doing something, getting something out the door.
It's true. That is good.
James.
Yeah.
You teased it already, but tell me.
Yeah.
Tell me about the boyfriend dungeon. What's it like down there, and what's your favorite thing you smelled while in the dungeon?
It's interesting because it kind of straddles two different genres. It doesn't feel like it goes super hard in either direction. So it's kind of weird to recommend to people, because if you've played a lot of dating sims, this one's going to feel pretty vanilla. And if you're really big into dungeon crawlers, you're not going to like this game a whole lot. But if you're ready to commit to a sort of a fucked up fusion experience, then it's fun, there's no consequences for dying in the dungeon. You just sort of wake up in your house and you're like, all right, that was cool. Do it again tomorrow, I guess. You don't lose anything except progress, and even then not really. You get checkpoints every few floors. You can just go back right pretty close to where you started, and it's fine. You level up just by doing battles and stuff like that, but the weapons only get stronger when you date them.
You date the weapons?
Yes, you date the weapons. So
okay,
because the weapons are like Transformers. They're swords and whatnot, but they are also dudes.
Yeah.
And highly eligible bachelors.
Yeah, guys, gals, non-binary pals. You know, the whole
Yeah.
the whole schmeal. So if you you want to try and mess around with different people, different flavors of weapon, that's actually pretty important. You got to go on a lot of dates so you can find something that suits your fighting style, right? So you can take it all the way to the end of a dungeon and fuck up the boss, that sort of thing. They get like some special moves, but I don't know, man. You just kind of like manage your zones and like do dodge as well. The specials didn't really. I never really found one that really fit my playstyle, really. I was just kind of brute forcing my way through most of the dungeon because, again, there's not like serious consequences for losing. You just kind of go back and keep trying. So yeah, the dungeon delving isn't all that deep, and the dating sim isn't all that deep. But there's a lot of different. There's a fair amount of variety on both ends, where you can kind of fuck around and figure things out, and they do dip their toes in some interesting subjects. This is actually the subject of a lot of controversy. Because they give you they give you a trigger warning at the beginning. Be like, hey, have you been stalked in your life by a person? Because that's going to happen in the game. Ever had a stalker? You're going to have a stalker. So, heads up. I mean, what they say is it depicts scenes of like stalking and harassment. And some people were like, oh, maybe that'll happen to somebody. It's like, no, it's going to happen to you. That's what the warning means. You're going to be stalked. Heads up. And some people were just not prepared for that. And they're like, holy fuck. I didn't sign up for this. And you kind of did, but the devs, they apologized anyway. And they reworded the warning so it's a little bit more clear. But some people were like, man, real-ass hardcore dating sims, they get into some, like, real nasty shit. Like some of the bad ends, you can like end up as somebody's sex slave, or you end up murdered, or all sorts of things can happen to you. Some of it non-consensual, and so for some people who are big dating sim pioneers, this one's gonna feel again kind of like a party platter, like a sample platter, You don't go too deep in anything in particular, but you do get into a little bit of some cool shit, some interesting shit story-wise. The writing is great, honestly. I was impressed. Feels very natural, feels very organic. One interesting thing I've ran into is that because this is a dating sim, if you're trying to play like an ace route where you're like a non-sexual being, which, that's just some people's deal, right? And that was kind of what they were promised. The trouble is, you're playing that character in a world that's fully fixated on dating and love. And the place is literally called Verona Beach, which I believe is a reference to a Shakespeare play, probably one of the more famous ones. Romeo and Juliet. So yes, one of the more famous ones. So, so it's kind of hard to play ace in this world because everybody still wants to fuck you. So you have to like go on dates and then after that be like, hey, just so we're clear, just a friends thing, just a non-physical thing. And you do have that option with basically every sword or dagger or like lightsaber. There's like at least one laser sword. There's at least one laser sword where like you were like, hey, you know what? This has been cool and all, but I could tell things are going to get physical. I'm really not down with that. But you have to do a bunch of dates before you can get to that point. And some people just weren't feeling that. And I understand that. But like you're playing a character in a world where everybody's fucking like a lot, like all the time. So they're going to have expectations for you as a character and as a player. And you have to kind of navigate those.
Can you still level up the weapons if you do choose that non-physical route?
Yeah, there are some characters, okay. Like one of them is a cat. Like that's not going to go anywhere. You're just going to hang out with a cat a bunch of times.
Well, I mean,
no.
Theoretically, yeah, but
no.
Like, have you ever played How to Fool Boyfriend?
Oh yeah, yeah. This isn't like one of those things where like the cat has a lot of lines of dialogue. It has
Oh, okay.
none. It's just a cat. It's literally
Okay.
just a cat. It's a cat that can transform into a pair of like brass knuckles, but like with blades instead of bumps. They're wild.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. They're pretty dope weapons. I hung out with the cat a bunch because I wanted those weapons to get better. But they're like, what happens is you text the owner and they're like, hey, you should let your cat out so we can go hang out. I want to hang out with your cat. And they're like, okay, that's okay, sure. It's very weird.
I mean, the whole genre is a little bit strange. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's got weird roots and it's gone weird places, and that's a great thing that there's that kind of diversity in what you can get your hands on and have a good time with.
Yeah, if this ends up being somebody's first dating sim, that's great. You know, it's going to introduce them to the genre. It's going to sort of show them possibilities. And then if you start playing other less mainstream dating sims, you will see more stuff. It's like when all those housewives and straight-laced women read 50 Shades of Grey, and they're like, is this what BDSM literature is like? And we were all, no, but no.
But
yeah,
you know,
if this makes you want to read BDSM literature, by all means, you know, I got some recommendations for you, you know, but you know what I mean? It's one of those situations.
okay. Good to know. I'm glad this little thing has found an audience.
Yeah.
And hopefully the start of more partnerships between genres like that. Not necessarily just dating sims and dungeon crawlers, but you know, the more we can mash up weird stuff together in a way that makes sense to some people, it just provides more avenues for people to find what they're actually passionate about.
Oh man,
Trev, CoD Vanguard Alpha.
yeah, that they had so on the weekend. I think anybody on PS5 could download the alpha and jump in and play a little bit of Champion Hill, and it's a ton of fun. It's this tournament style format, which I think what they're trying to go for here is kind of like Fireteam Dirty Bomb on Cold War right now. Sort of this separate mode that's separate from the traditional MP, that's separate from the single player, that's separate from Battle Royale. It's its own little thing. And so they've come up with this little mode where it's a tournament style format, which involves 8 teams, and the team with the most lives wins. And I did manage to capture a couple of W's with some work and some skill. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. So it's all about the team with the most lives win, and your goal is it's 2v2, and it's to take out these other teams. And in doing so, you collect money where you can upgrade your weapon, and just the way that you can upgrade your weapon in match on the fly just by simply clicking on the right D-pad. I thought that was really genius. There was no fiddling, so if you just, you click on upgrade your weapon and boom, in the middle of the match, you get a new grip. Boom, if you collect enough money, you can upgrade your weapon again, and you can get a new scope. And then so in every third or fourth match, you would stop and you would go into this area where you can buy things. So the money that you've collected in your matches during this tournament style thing, you can buy perks, you can buy ammunition, you can buy other kind of things that help you win. It's it was a load of fun, and it was all weekend. And it looks like later this week there will be a multiplayer session, which will for Vanguard, and it'll be just MP as well. It won't be this Champion Hill mode, but yeah, I think it's got potential, and it's a ton of fun. It's sort of a blend of, like I mentioned, the fire team mode and also a little bit of the gunfight. There's elements of that because the maps are tiny. Like you cannot hide. There's nowhere to hide. So Yeah, and they're very short. The matches are only a few minutes long. So yeah, it's run and gun, survive, and work as a team.
Sounds rad.
Yeah, it was fun.
And I loved Gunfight. What a great mode, and that, I guess that's the challenge for anybody who's making a Call of Duty game, is people have such expectation of what they expect to be in the game and what they want to do playing the game, and usually that's traditional multiplayer, deathmatch, and now battle royale, maybe with the zombies depending on which game it is. But it's nice to see them go a little bit outside and come up with something new, especially in a short format like that, where it's likely to capture a little bit more attention and hopefully build up a player base.
Yeah, and I think it's one where I firmly believe they had streaming in mind, like keeping the matches very short, very tight, intense, frantic, so there's not a lot of downtime. I mean, in a battle royale game, you can sort of run around and hide until you get into the final 20, and it can be dull. There's nothing dull about this. It's a lot of chaotic action right from the get-go. And I think if you do enjoy Gunfight, I'm pretty confident you'll like Champion Hill. For sure.
Sweet. Let's keep my eyes on that one. Now, James, you've got one game left, and I can't help but feel like you're kind of beating around the bush on this one.
Well, I don't see how. It's Sonic Colors Ultimate. I did a quick preview event, which was like a hot 30 minutes. And over the last week, I've been playing a bunch of it. And, yeah, man. It's one of the good Sonic games that has been successfully dragged into the modern era, although it wasn't terribly old to begin with, which is probably what helps be one of the good Sonic games. I tried to get into this in the review, but basically Sonic always controls kind of janky. Like, he always feels like you're barely wrangling the little fucker. Like, he always feels like he's a little too fast. He's like skidding to his stop. It's like blasting away his hot top speed. He feels very like barely restrained, And I think they really capture this and kind of nail it so that like the controls more or less work as you want them to every time, but like at the same time it still feels very speedy, very snappy. And listen, man, there's a lot of side characters, okay, in the Sonic franchise, a lot of like bees and alligators and weird little fucking animals, and I can't keep track of all of them. I don't particularly care for most of them. They all feel kind of extraneous. Sonic Colors is just you, Sonic, and Tails, and Robotnik, and some robot assholes who show up like every once in a while, but not particularly often. It's a very tightly knit, simple, stripped down story, and it works. Just some fun, quippy dialogue, just some little asides every once in a while. Most of it's just like the high-speed platforming action. They introduce a new set of mechanics where you like harvest these aliens' life force for your own powers, which is basically what Robotnik's doing, but it's voluntary and it's on a smaller scale, so it's fine. And you can like drill through walls or like zip between diamonds as like a high-speed transport kind of thing. And they have the rocket one that shoots you straight up into the air. There's a new one called Jade Ghost that lets you like clip through walls. And yeah, it's just like one new element added to an established formula to make it feel fresh and interesting while still staying true to the usual set of Sonic mechanics, which at this point is like run really fast, navigate some complicated platforming, and then do that thing where you leap up in the air and like dash into enemies that just basically turns them into platforms, like negates any of the like danger of combat. You're just kind of like getting close enough to do that and doing it, and then that's the battle. Yeah, it's great. It as far as Sonic games go, it approaches the platonic ideal of Sonic games, which is not perfect by any stretch, but it's the Sonic experience that people look for and remember fondly, and they point to, and they're like, isn't Sonic as a franchise kind of completely bum jumped? And like, no, and then they point to like 3 games, and then this is one of them, and now it's better, so that's cool.
Yeah, but can I collect coins, and lots of them, and when I like bump into something, lose them all in glorious, horrible fashion?
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah. Oh, and there's
Then I'm in.
it's unlimited lives, which is really important, because boy oh boy does the difficulty ramp up after a certain period.
Well, that's Sonic for you.
Yeah, right. It's the quintessential Sonic experience. So yeah, as far as that goes, as far as it very much sets out what it tried to, it achieves the ends of a good Sonic game, and it gets you in there. It still has flaws. All of them fucking do. You can't tell me otherwise, but it's fine. It works really well in spite of them. It's good.
And your review will be live on COD Connected on September 1st at 9 a.m.? No, 6 a.m.
6
a.m.?
Yeah.
There you go.
Sweet. Sounds like I would absolutely hate it.
I mean, if you don't fuck with Sonic the Hedgehog, this will 100%. You would bounce off this like nobody's business.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned this a few podcasts ago, but I even think that Sonic 2 and Sonic Mania are not great.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm glad you love it, James. Should we move on to the news? Because
we got some news to cover. Yes, we do.
And to me, I think we should start with the big joint, which is the fact that Halo is coming out incomplete.
Yeah.
That's the big one, right?
It is and it isn't. I mean, I feel like people are making a big deal out of it. I mean, again, for me, in my advanced age, I'm not playing co-op. I could give a shit about co-op. I just want the single player. And then at night, I'll go jump in and I'll play some MP. Do I really play it for co-op? No, I don't. I understand that this is a big aspect of Halo. And again, I've got fond memories of 15, 20 years ago, LAN parties and playing co-op. It's awesome. Love all that. But do I care that it's coming out right away at launch day? I could give a rip. I can wait. If they need to polish it up a bit more, I can wait. This game's been nothing but, they've been trying to get this thing ready desperately for what feels like an eternity. So if they need a bit more time for one specific mode, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to lose sleep.
But here,
will it hurt the review? It might. It probably should.
Yeah. But for one thing, Joseph Staten, the creative director of Halo Infinite, has been on record saying that campaign co-op is critical to the experience of this game. And now he's saying it's fine, we'll just not have it. And as a second thing, what precisely is different about the co-op versus the campaign? The co-op is the campaign, just with another player. And you would think 6 years into development with this game, that might have been one of the early concerns, is getting something like cooperative play working on the scale. What do they call it? Slipspace engine. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Between that and them not actually showing anything of the game, not even any gameplay trailers, never mind a demo or whatever, because I know that takes forever to do, but no footage of this game running, that is extremely, extremely concerning to me.
Well, there was the technical test.
But that's the multiplayer. That's not Halo Infinite. That's Halo multiplayer.
Yeah, well, it's part and parcel.
But it's a separate free-to-play thing that's not actually Halo Infinite.
So that's not... So Okay, I'm confused. So that's not actually part of the game itself, but it is launching with the. So we treat it like Warzone for Call of Duty, right? Is that the idea?
Yeah.
And there, I imagine there'll be a season's pass, right?
Yeah.
And you'll buy these things and you'll progress. I see. So anybody can jump into that aspect.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, if it is supposed to be so critical, what I imagine is there's some aspects to the co-op that we haven't heard of yet. Maybe there are some things they're building in,
could be,
to make it unique.
So you guys keep saying essential co-op, critical to the experience. Maybe we make it unique. You know what it sounds like? It sounds like the guys making Halo Infinite saw Joseph Ferris and his work with like It Takes Two and Brothers and A Way Out, and they're like, "Fuck, we gotta do something like that." And now they're trying to. Is that what's happening? Is 343? Are they making like the Halo version of It Takes Two? Is that?
If they are, that's fucking awesome. But if that's not the case, and 3 to 6 months down the road, the co-op comes out and it's just literally Halo Infinite that people have been playing since December 8th, assuming it
people
comes
be
out.
Upset.
I don't know. I don't think that's going to fly.
I would think people would be upset if it is just the single player, nothing different, just the ability to play with a buddy. I think people will be upset and disappointed.
If it is the same, what that tells me is that the single player campaign is so resource intensive and so like running on a razor's edge. We're talking like Cyberpunk 2077 levels of like functionality that they're like, oh, when you introduce a second person, the entire thing falls apart like a fucking house of cards. And it's like, we had to do 6 more months of back-end testing just to make sure that we could put a second player character in the world without it like fucking dissolving. Like, okay, that, like, I understand that, though I don't really like it.
But make no bones about it, Xbox needs this to be a home run. It needs to be. It needs to be a home run. Like, when's the last time they've had a AAA release that was a system seller? I don't know.
It's been a couple systems. Let's be real.
And don't get me wrong, they're doing well. Game Pass, people love Game Pass. They've locked up a gazillion publishers. Psychonauts 2, awesome. They got Bethesda, awesome. They're definitely trending in the right direction. But they need Halo to be Halo. They need to be Halo, what Halo was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, where it's a system seller. They need it to be a system seller. So I think Paul's concerns are legitimate. I definitely echo a lot of those concerns. I'm not necessarily convinced it's going to be that system seller that we're hoping, or at least Xbox fans are hoping it'll be. We'll see. We shall see. But it's getting fucking released, hell or high water. It might be without 10 modes, but it's going out there.
It has to go out the door. And the other thing that makes me think like this thing is still knife's edge, incredibly hot on its way in. You know, the tiles are blasting off the shuttle on re-entry as this thing's trying to land, and they hope that they can make it without bursting into flames. As that the Infinite Series X, the Halo specific console, which looks awesome by the way, is coming out in the middle of November 15th. But Halo is December 8th. Pretty much the last possible date they could release this game and have it still have an impact for that whole holiday cycle. It was supposed to come out in the middle of November, obviously. But they were like, we can't do that. We need that extra 4 weeks. We need that extra 4 weeks or this game will not run. Yeah. I still hope. I hope that it's amazing. I want it to be, like I was saying about NHL and other remaster games, I want it to feel like I remember Halo being. That's what they need this thing to be, and I really hope it's that.
This thing's gonna have a 5 gig fucking day one update. You just know it. You just know day
5?
one you're gonna. It's gonna be a giant
105.
fucking patch. Yeah, well, the thing is gonna be a hard drive suck. You just know it.
It's going to be the size of the game. It's going to replace all the fucking game files.
It'll be a huge update. No question. And I think I think people will have to go in with the mindset that it's going to be updated and patched as we move along with like something that we see in sports games, and they get away with it. They get away with updating as they go along. They get away with including more modes as they go along. Call of Duty's kind of getting away with that with their Battle Pass system. They introduce different things as they go along. So it seems as though this live services might be the way they're going with Halo. Because I'm with you, Paul. There's a real good chance that it's going to launch, and it'll have issues. It'll have issues.
I just really don't want this to be the game that I have to review like I reviewed Cyberpunk last year. And,
I don't think it'll be that bad.
I hope not. God, I hope not.
No, I think publishers and developers nowadays are fucking terrified of having that kind of a situation.
And they should be.
Terrified. They should be.
That is definitely the one we dragged up to the clearing in the middle of the crowd and shot in the back of the fucking head as an example to all the others.
I think that's why we're seeing all these delays too.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that's why we're seeing so many delays.
I still to this day get a good chuckle when I get an email about Cyberpunk getting a patch.
It's like,
I'm like, I know it still sucks ass. I'm not going to download that patch. There's no chance.
It was on sale recently for something dirt fucking cheap, like $20. Like, are you kidding me? This thing's this cheap already?
And it's not worth it. It's not worth that price.
It might be now. I haven't played it since like launch. So
I have a
maybe
friend,
it is now.
I have a friend who got it for PC just in the last month, and he's having a pretty good time,
Okay.
I think his expectations have been thoroughly massaged and managed because he's getting it in the wake of a lot of like press and a lot of fan reactions and a lot of updates and a lot of triage, but his experience has been more or less positive. Right?
That's good. Well,
Just to go back to Halo for a hot second, the other thing that came out in the news recently that I don't know if I'd love is that the multiplayer doesn't have a traditional leveling system. You don't level up your player character by playing the game. You level up by completing challenges. So there's no XP for completing a game, for getting kills, doing all that stuff. It's more like get 10 rocket kills and get this number of XP and get this and that. So very much more challenge oriented, which could be fun, but I think potentially harms the core experience if the daily challenge is, get 25 kills after you've hijacked a ghost. That's going to be the only thing that anybody on the map is trying to do is trying to hijack a ghost.
Yeah, I mean, I find for Call of Duty, I do get sucked into the daily challenges. Mm-hmm. Get 10 pistol kills or 10 long range kills. And I do it for the extra XP, and it's one more thing to kind of look forward to. But yeah, that's just a small component. Like, you need to have that XP system, and I work towards prestiging, and I'm really surprised that Halo won't have some kind of XP progression system that everybody's visible like this, so sort of who you're up against. But that's interesting.
Yeah, how fucked are we?
I wasn't aware of
match?
That. Yeah, we're against some level 300s, and I'm a 20, so I got my work cut out for me. And that's interesting.
To be fair to them, I think it was a pretty off the collar, comment by someone who's working on the multiplayer. So maybe there's more to that than we've seen so far. We'll look for whenever that next technical test is coming down the pipe. Maybe they'll have some of that baked in. Who knows?
We shall see.
But long and short of it is there's not too much coming out for the rest of 2021.
Nope.
It's all coming out in February.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually made a list here. So we're gonna have Saints Row.
Okay.
We're gonna have the Destiny 2 expansion. There's a Rainbow Six expansion. There's this game called SIFU. I know nothing about that.
Ah, yeah.
It looks fucking cool.
It does.
King of Fighters 15, Blood Bowl, Evil Dead the game. I'm all in for that. And Vampire Swan Song. Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song. So yeah, there's a few games coming out in February. And of course Riders Republic, which you mentioned earlier, Paul.
And Horizon Zero Dawn is coming out in February.
And
now?
Horizon, yes, of course. That's the biggie.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is, when you see a trailer for a game and they say coming out 2021, they're fucking liars. All right, that's what they were like. Oh no, we're gonna have it out later this year. Yeah, they even said that about the Ninja Turtles game, Shredder's Revenge. They had a 2021 release date, and now it's like early 2022, more like ha ha ha. Yeah.
And there's a good chance half of these games get pushed. Like, will Saints Row actually launch in February when we just saw it for the first time last
With
week?
no gameplay.
Yeah.
No, that's right. Cool trailer, but yeah, there was no gameplay there.
James, what's the over-under on Skatebird being delayed to 2022?
It's being made by an unbelievably small team, so it's already been pushed back a lot. Like, they didn't even really have a release date for the longest time. It was just, when it's ready, and it was supposed to be August. Now it's September, so I don't know. Maybe it comes out September. Maybe it comes out the mythical February, the death month. They're basically making a kill box for reviewers. They're like shoving everybody into this thing with their AKs, and we're like, all right, we're gonna make it happen.
Somebody's in there stapling up the plastic to all the walls. It's gonna be messy.
Yeah. There's a couple things I'm looking forward to September that I have to like temper my expectations, or it's like, well, maybe it'll come out then, but probably not, you fucking fool. What do you... Come on. Yeah, I'm... Diablo 2, the big Resurrected Edition, is allegedly coming out in September.
That's right. I missed that one. Another big one.
Yeah. That one pulls off a really impressive magic trick where you think it's just like it was when you remember, but it's not. It's many, many times better. And it's just a clever illusion.
They're illusions, Michael. Yeah, I went there.
Yeah, tricks are for sex workers. Hey. Anyway.
Zing!
Yeah. So that one's... there's a bunch of stuff that's allegedly coming out in September, but we'll see. But
We'll see.
I mentioned this a few podcasts ago, where like everybody in 2020 was worried about the pandemic kicking up a bunch of delays. And the reality of the situation is that no, not necessarily. If things were delayed in 2020, it's because they were trying to meter out their releases so that certain sections of the calendar didn't look too barren. 2021 is when the delays really start ramping up, because all the projects, this is when all the work is actually being done in pandemic mode. Everything that we saw in 2020 was basically finished, and they were just, wrapping it up and putting the polish on it and shit like that. All the nasty grunt work was being done.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good point.
Yeah. So like now this is the year when the really serious delays are happening, and like every release date should come with a big fat asterisk right beside it. But like, be real, guys. We don't know.
This might be coming out February 17th, 2022. It might be.
Yeah,
Between
the pandemic and the Cyberpunk event, we'll call it the CD Projekt Reckoning You know, where like the collective hubris of the games industry came like fucking crashing down on one of its fucking golden children, and now everybody else in the industry is like, ooh, ugh, maybe we don't do that anymore.
I mean, we've talked about this before, but how the fuck were there so many high review scores for that game at embargo? I can't believe it.
Well, we do know how that happened. Like it was a select group that was played strictly on PC under specific conditions and guidelines, and I think it was just really sort of a superficial atmosphere to review it. Like it didn't.
But I mean, any self-respecting reviewer who's put into that environment, knowing that they're being funneled towards the best possible experience, owes it to their readership to try and bend that at least a little bit.
Well, like,
you know,
Paul, it happened to me at a different time in my career, right? Like,
it's true.
I was corralled into a very specific environment for Battlefront 2, for the Star Wars game, where it was like, okay, here's the multiplayer, and it's all going to run beautifully, and nobody has to buy anything, and everything is unlocked, and it's going to be really fun because you're playing with people of a comparable skill level, and everything's going to feel awesome, and you get these fucking blinders on. You got no idea what you're in for, what you're experiencing until it's too late. And Cyberpunk was a little bit more insidious, where it wasn't like an event. They just gave particular people review copies who had, for example, a pretty fresh off the boat RTX or GTX card kicking around in their systems that could handle the Cyberpunk, right? Like, so like they would have had no fucking idea that they were being bamboozled, but like,
and sure as shit, this game's been in development for so long, it has to be good, right? I mean, it's probably a discussion we could save for another podcast, because I feel like review events in general, which there hasn't been any since the start of the pandemic, I feel like they all go for that. They all try and set you up in an environment, especially the ones where you have to travel somewhere, and they set you up in a hotel room, in a conference room. They slap the best fucking TV possible right in front of you, the best machines. You've got fucking developers that are there to swoop in if you're having any kind of technical issues. Like, they're feeding you, you give you as much to drink as you want. Like, they are fantastic. But you're right, Paul. It doesn't always give you a fully accurate picture of what you're going to play post-release.
Yeah, and I mean, I give multiplayer games a bit more of a pass on that for something like what James went through with Battlefront, because that is the best possible scenario in which you could play that game, and under those conditions, the game is very good. But in something like Cyberpunk, you're not playing with other people. And even if you're on the best possible rig and things, you have to see how bad the AI is. And you went into that cutscene with Jackie, and he was holding a gun through the side of his head when he was not supposed to be holding a gun. Those things all happen on PC too. And the infinite cars of the same variety and the physics nonsense that is in there is intrinsic to how that game is designed. Outside of how bad the narrative structure is and how broken the overall experience is compared to what they said it was. So I don't give any pass to people who were at a review event for something like Cyberpunk in that single player environment.
Yeah, it's tough. I've attended a few Call of Duty events in the past, and I've come under criticism for like, well, how can you release your review so early? Like it's barely been released to the public. You haven't tested the live servers. And my excuse, and it's not really excuse, it's like, well, look, gang. First of all, day one for any Call of Duty game multiplayer, the servers are always fucked. They always get inundated. It's fucked. Day one of every single Call of Duty game since the beginning of time, it's fucked. But by the end of the weekend, by Sunday, everything is running smoothly, and it is from there on out. So it does recapture, I find. So the multiplayer, when I play in those events and I'm playing against other press, other streamers, other YouTubers, other devs, in that kind of environment, yeah, it's silky smooth. But guess what? A week after release, it's still silky smooth. So I've never gone back to a Call of Duty game like a week after release and thought, holy fuck, the servers are still fucking terrible. And this is a broken multiplayer experience. So I always really find that when I talk about the multiplayer component in Call of Duty from those review events, I stand by it because the experience is nearly identical when it comes time to actually play the game with the rest of the public, 1, 2, 3 weeks later after the event.
That's fair.
I want to read a quick quote here from the Windows Central review of Cyberpunk 2077. Windows Central. Cyberpunk 2077 is an industry high point that, simply put, may never be bested. It is the best game I have ever played. That's fucking wrong. It's such nonsense.
It's like that meme of the guy who's seen only one movie. He's only seen Boss Baby, seeing a second movie. Getting a lot of Boss Baby vibes from this movie. And it's just like, was this the second or third PC game you've ever played in your life? Because then, yes, it is probably cream of the crop. But, fuck, dude.
Good God, man.
Yeah. He played a different game than we did.
He
Clearly.
He fucking absolutely did. Oh my God.
He didn't play the same game we did. Nope.
Oh, that's not...
Doesn't actually say who the reviewer is on this. Name...
and a very reputable site. I mean, Windows Central, I'm not knocking them in any way. They're considered, in our industry, a reputable site.
Yep.
I think.
Ditto, IGN Japan gave that game 100.
There you go.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Can't make this up, man. Let's move on. Let's talk about something else. James, what else you got?
Well, there's something I noticed probably like a week or so ago, because I missed a pod, so I'm playing catch up here.
Oh yeah, we didn't.
Shortly after they released the newest trailer for Pokemon Legends of Arceus, I don't know, whatever, the one, the old timey one. Everybody's given the game tons. Well, not everybody. There's a vocal minority that has made it their personal mission to shit upon Pokemon games whenever they're announced because they look fucking terrible. And this isn't like a subjective, a biased opinion or anything. Like, this is the biggest franchise on the planet. Numerically. Like, there's nothing bigger than Pokemon presently. And it looks like fucking garbage. Because...
Wait a minute. Isn't this a February game as well?
Late January, I think. So, like, it's in that same window. Because, like, the Pokemon team, they dump all the resources into the character models. That's the problem. So that the Pokemon themselves, they look awesome, or at least as good as the developers want them to. Like, they've reached their fucking ideal state, right? For, like, marketability, accessibility. They're recognizable. They're very, like, they're kind of, like, smoothed over. It's just like, this is the platonic ideal of a fucking Pokemon. So they spend all their resources on these character models, and the rest of the game looks like dog shit because they're not putting time and money into that. And so people are like, because it's being compared to Breath of the Wild. Because it's an open world game where you explore and you fight and, you get into shit and you have, big Pokemon chasing you down to beat the shit out of you, and then you have to, like, throw your own out to, like, spin them off so you're not, like, mauled or, like, beaten into unconsciousness. The environments are bare and shitty, and there's just, like, a few scrubby little trees populating an empty basic ass plane, and, like, I understand that people look at this in the year of our God, 2021, and we're like, look at all the other games that Nintendo has put out, and they're amazing, and they look so good, and they have that Nintendo polish, which is a phrase denoting like what kind of incredible shit Nintendo can do with limited hardware. But like with Pokemon, they just don't. They just don't. Because, well, it's not them developing it. Nintendo's just publishing it. So it's just these guys who only care about the Pokemon, and everything else gets like, it's good enough, you know, it's whatever. But this to the people out there who are leveling these criticisms at every successive iteration of these games, Pokemon Sword and Shield was where they really cranked it up. They're like, you guys are putting this out on the Switch and it looks like hot garbage. I don't understand. Why is this so gross? To you, I say, at no point in the entire history of the franchise, from beginning to end, from 1995 or 96, from 1996 to now, never has there been a Pokemon game that looked appropriate for the era in which it was released. This has literally never happened. It will never happen at any point in his long storied history from now until the kids lose interest and they stop making these fucking games. They're never going to look as good as the other shit coming out that same year because they don't care about them that way. They don't want the whole game to look beautiful and cool. They want the monsters to be approachable and memorable and cuddly and interesting and drawable. They want kids to be able to make fan art of these fucking creatures, you know, in the margins of their school books and, you know, things like that. They want these characters to be reproducible and studyable and obsessed over and approachable and marketable. So they're never going to look incredibly crisp or incredibly sharp or incredibly cool because that's not the fucking essential design philosophy behind the franchise. None of it looks good. The monsters look better. Sorry, you're never going to get what you want. That's kind of the bottom line. The trees will always look like shit. There will not be nearly enough of them. The environments will be very plain and bare because the people developing the games could not give a fuck about the fidelity of these environments. Just so long as the Pokemon themselves look to their specifications, they're happy.
For one thing, I think the game looks fine.
Yeah.
It looks fine. And for another thing, it's an open world game running on a Switch.
Yeah.
So there is a technical limit there for how good this can possibly look. And I mean, am I an expert on what's going on underneath the hood of a Pokemon game? Absolutely not. I don't know that there's not a lot more to how a Pokemon game runs versus something like a Breath of the Wild. It's entirely possible that there's a very technical reason why they can't look as good.
Yeah, I'm going to say to the people who are complaining, God, this game looks like it's 10 years old. Like, let me tell you a little story about the hardware that the Switch is designed on.
It's 10 years old. Almost.
Yeah, I mean, functionally, for all intents and purposes, yes. We are working with last generation hardware at best under optimal circumstances. And like, if you're going to have that discussion, then you have to get into like, well, why doesn't Nintendo want all their stuff to look as good as possible? It's like, fuck, man, I don't know. I've never understood why they do what they do. When it comes to hardware, Nintendo is ineffable. It's like they have a plan to make all of the money in the world, and 9 times out of 10 that plan succeeds. When it didn't, the high-level staff of the company took a fucking pay cut in order to make sure that the rest of the company ran as smoothly as it could. Because they know what they're doing. They have a plan. You may not agree with it. You may not think it makes any sense. It may not make any sense in this modern dog-eat-dog world of game development, but they're going to do it.
And if you desperately, desperately want better-looking Pokemon, you can go play Temtem.
Yes, but don't do that.
It's okay.
You can do that, but don't do that. Did we not? We talked about Temtem. We would talk about Temtem. We talked about Temtem. I was the one who had to play Temtem
ages ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't do that. You don't have to do that. There's other things you could be doing with your life and your time and your money besides playing Temtem.
What's that? The Monster Hunter one Rhett was talking about a few weeks ago.
Monster
Harvest. Was it Monster Harvest?
No.
Monster Train.
He has played a lot of monster games, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know he's actually working on his Monster Harvest. Yeah, tonight, I think. Yeah, that one's coming up due pretty quick.
I think it was an actual Monster Hunter game. Stories?
Yes, Monster Hunter Stories 2.
Monster Hunter Stories he did play.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the one that's basically Pokemon. Yeah.
Play that.
Yeah.
If you want. Or don't. What else? What else we got? We got Twitch boycotts happening.
All you need to
Yeah, what is that all about? Something to do with hate raids.
Yes. Well, basically, they've been a real problem lately. Where
so what? Wait, back up. So you gotta explain. What is a hate raid?
My limited understanding is that a bunch of complete shitheels will descend in a coordinated fashion on a channel and blow up their chat with toxic garbage. It just it completely.
I like that belt.
Yeah.
Perfectly timed.
Yeah.
That's what I think of those toxic assholes.
Yeah. Yeah. They coordinate, they plan, they get together, they roll in, they fuck up the whole deal.
Jesus fuck.
And it's complete. It's awful, right? And Twitch has not really done much about it, and so a bunch of creators are planning to do a boycott on September 1st, which is good. That's the good news. There's coordinated action taking place. The bad news is a lot of the people who were doing this are not top level Twitch streamers. And in order for Twitch to notice that something's up, a lot of viewers are going to have to not be on the platform. And the more high level streamers participate, the more of a dent it's going to make in Twitch's viewership numbers. So I guess what I'm saying is that the coordinated action could stand to be more coordinated and to have more of an impact. My understanding is that it's basically just going to fuck up the bag for a lot of small time streamers minority marginalized people of color, people like that, LGBTQ people, people who are the subject of the hate raids, with a not a gigantic audience, but a sizable audience, and it feels like really the fucking the kings and queens of the fucking medium should really be taking action in order to really stick it to this fucking company and force them to take notice. And I don't think any of them are doing that because they have kids and mortgages and stuff that are riding on their careers. And
yeah, you really got to do some damage to the old pocketbook before Uncle Jeff notices,
Before Uncle Jeff notices.
Uncle Bezos.
Yeah, if you want to do damage to his pocketbook, you'd have to well, Paul and Trevor, let's just say the strike would have to be a tiny bit bigger.
Slightly.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Here's what I don't understand. What I don't understand is most of these Twitch broadcasts are recorded or accessible, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're shown live and they're usually recorded, and you can watch these things later. So the people that do these hate raids and jump into a live stream and just throw their toxic garbage at a streamer, Twitch can see all the people that are jumping in to this person's stream. Why can't Twitch, like, it doesn't make sense to me. Why can't Twitch say, okay, like, douchebag 649, you're punted, this guy's punted, like, you just boom, 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 ban all these accounts.
I think that's kind of the point the streamers are making. It's like, it should be really easy to fix. Why
it should be fucking
something?
simple. Like, what's the problem?
Yeah. Just take down the names and numbers and give them the old boot.
Like, this is kind of what's done on every other platform. What's the problem here? It's weird. But hey, if this boycott is effective...
That's the problem, because regardless of what's happening in the chat or what's happening to some of these streamers, if there are less viewers on the platform, the advertisements on Twitch are less valuable.
True. Overall.
And that's the long and the short of why nothing's happening here, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Follow the money. Follow the money.
Exactly. Follow the trail of cash.
Yeah. Speaking of cash, we should talk about this the Steam refund policy.
Yeah. I know nothing about it. So
well,
someone else has to set this up.
Basically, it's a game called Summer of '58.
Mm-hmm.
It's very short.
Like less than 2 hours short.
Less than 2 hours. So what this means is that a person can play it, finish it, and get a refund. And so a bunch of people did this to the point where, like, the bottom line of this dev was being very seriously damaged. And then when they went to Steam to be like, hey, these people are obviously finishing this game and just, like, getting their money back, and Steam just... whatever, them's the breaks, kiddo. And so he's like, well, fine, fuck you, I'm out. And the devs are just like, we're done, you know? Not brutal. Like the game, the gaming. Like they're just like, if they can't, if they can't fucking make this platform work and make this medium work, then they're all fucking off until they can figure out a way to monetize their artistic endeavors in such a way that can't be immediately undone by I mean, it's a great refund policy, but we've seen it's got some stress points.
Yeah. You should yeah. You're a fucking douchebag if you do that. If you finish a game and then ask for a refund, you're a fucking douchebag if you do that. Like you're just a degenerate. Like, so I mean, I think that's, again, it should be an easy fix for Steam to see who finished it and be like, no, you're not getting a refund. We can tell because you're playing it on our platform. We could tell you finished the game.
Yeah.
And I feel there shouldn't be a 2 hour. So what is it? Their rule, 2 hour. If you played more than 2 hours, you don't get a refund. Why isn't it percentage based? Like, if you played more than 2% of the game, you don't get a refund.
If you get the achievement that you get when you finish the game, fuck you. You're not getting your money back.
Exactly. Like, I feel bad for the developer.
Yeah,
I feel bad for...
They have to learn from this. They have to make right what was done to these people just as a loophole in their busted system. And then B, they have to make it so that, like, you can't finish a game and get a refund.
Yeah.
Seems like a simple fix.
Yeah.
Like, again, Steam should step in there. They really should issue a statement and step in and do something about that.
Yeah. And on one hand, I see why the policy is that way.
Yeah.
That's as simple as the policy could be, and it's extremely consumer friendly. You don't need staff to manage your refund system. If you just click a button and say, I want a refund, as long as you played less than 2 hours, boom, you got a refund. I see why it is that way, but hey, there are tweaks to be made.
Well, there's a fuckload of games, and there's probably even more so that are less than 4 hour experiences. So I think they do have to factor in some of the small guys here, because it will only be the small guys that'll be developing these tiny games, these 1-2 man development teams. They should do something for them, make it percentage wise, just somehow rejig that refund formula for some of those other, especially indie games where they're already struggling to just get any kind of traction on that platform. And to have something like this for them, I feel bad for the Summer of 58 team.
Yeah, it's bullshit. It's bullshit.
Side note, does that mean that I can actually get a refund for the thousands of games I've bought on winter sales and summer sales and holiday sales and never installed?
Maybe. Is it timed? It's probably timed. Or maybe it's one of those things like, if you buy something on sale and you can't return it.
Final sale.
Final sale.
I've tried to get a refund successfully for one Steam game that I purchased in my life. And that's because it was like it was making me physically ill to play it. I was like, yeah. It was just like, it felt physically fucked up trying to play this game. I was like, it ain't happening, guys. I'm sorry. I can't do this. Need my money back. That was that.
Look at this guy over here gaming the system because, it was making him sick or whatever. Costing the developers money.
Back in my day, you had to physically go get a game, and if you wanted to take it back, you couldn't take it back. You'd get $10 trade-in value for that $80 game, and that's it.
Did you break the plastic wrap?
Yeah, we won't take it. Is the instruction booklet in there? No? Forget it. Get out of here, kid.
Okay. Any other news or anything else we want to talk about?
I think we saw. Oh, well, there's the Blizzard changing Mccree's name. But I mean, is there much to talk about there? I felt personally like that's kind of a no-brainer move. If your lead designer was an abusive dirtbag, maybe we change Mccree's name to something else. Maybe not Cowboy Bill, because wasn't it the Bill Cosby suite whole thing with them?
Yeah, it was.
So let's not call him Cowboy Bill, but we can call him something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like a no-brainer move. If you've got a character based on this guy who's allegedly, or maybe he has been formally disciplined. I don't know. I haven't been up on that specific situation. But I mean, if you got a character based on this dude and it's extremely uncomfortable, not only for the company, but for the people that still probably work on Overwatch, change the fucking name. It's not a big deal. It's just a video game character. Change the name.
Yeah. It is literally the least they could do.
Right?
Like,
given all the nonsense at Blizzard.
Yeah, you could take an L on that one.
Yeah.
Just fucking change it.
Yeah.
The amount you have to do to complete what could be called improvement over at Blizzard is pretty low. Like, the bar is not great right now. So, name change probably ranks pretty good in the hierarchy of things that have happened at Blizzard.
Yep. And I think they will. Have they come up with the actual change of the name yet? Or is that TBA?
I don't know.
I haven't heard, but...
Yeah. I don't play Overwatch anymore. Yeah. Haven't in years.
Yeah.
Did Overwatch 2 ever come out?
No.
No.
I was going to say, if it did, I didn't hear about it. Okay.
Yeah, no.
But otherwise, I think that's about it. Well, and we already touched on the new Saints Row. That's slated for February, which it won't be out February. It's just not happening.
No. So I didn't watch that presentation. What's the pitch? Is this like a reboot? Is this a sequel to 4? What are we doing?
It looks like it's going to be a full reboot with new characters. But it's funny because the little trailer that we saw didn't sort of flash some of that crude toilet humor that's part of the Saints Row franchise, which I love. I get a kick out of it. It's completely different Mostly completely different than anything else we played, or it's more towards the GTA side of the house. But yeah, these characters are over the top. The dialogue's over the top. Everything's over the top, especially the powers, and it's a fun game. These open world Saints Row games are hilarious to play, and I do enjoy them, and I'm looking forward to the reboot. But we didn't see any gameplay. The trailer did look good. And the team behind it, Volition, I feel like they will quickly erase the memory of Agents of Mayhem. I think a lot of people were hoping Agents of Mayhem would be like the next kind of Saints Row hit, and fuck was that game was terrible.
Oh,
yeah.
It's just awful.
Just terrible. So, yeah, I'm hoping Saints Row's back, purple dildos and all, and it's better than ever. I hope it's funny, I hope it's fun, and I hope it's something I can sink 20 to 30 hours into and enjoy it.
Apparently there is a gameplay trailer now.
Oh, sick. All right.
So, there's some in-engine footage. Well, maybe it is a game at this point. I don't know.
Maybe.
Not just an idea in someone's head like Halo Infinite is.
I think, just as a last little note here, I think that we have to formally get together and tell developers the world over, stop giving us trailers with just like pre-rendered CGI footage. It's like a signal for us to immediately stop paying attention. When you do that, it's just like, here's some cool CGI that tells you that a game is happening. You're like, all right, great. I don't give a fuck. Come back with some in-game shit. Like, get out of here. Go on. Come back in 6 months and we have something to show us that it's like a thing, you know? Like, give me something tangible. Even if it looks janky, like, I feel like people react better. Like, there's a more positive reaction to if they're like, this is pre-alpha footage, and they just show it off, and they're like, all right, that's cool. They got time to fix it. That's great. We know a game's happening. But if you just show me some super slick fucking Hollywood CGI bullshit, it's just like, all right, I have no reason to believe that you've made any progress in this game. This could literally be the only thing you finished before you brought it to this stream. Why would you do this?
And we know that CG trailer looks nothing like the game's gonna look like.
Yeah.
It's probably got none of the characters. That was my big problem with that. It was the Arcane game that Xbox showed off a few months ago. I'm like, okay, this looks like an interesting world, but that's not the game.
Yeah.
Like, come back when you know what the gameplay is. This tells me nothing of whether I'm gonna actually want to play this. If it's like Dishonored, I probably want to play it, but I don't know that it is.
And especially this late in the development cycle. Like, if the new Saints Row is indeed coming out in February, which it's fucking not. It's not. But if it is, and at this point the information we have is that it is coming out in February, like, show us something. This is pretty late in the development cycle. Yeah. Like, that's the kind of trailer we would have saw at E3 2019. Like, coming out, you know, in 2022. Like, that's something you see at least a year and a half before the game's out. So, yeah, we are, you know, with less than 6 months to go, I am surprised that we're not seeing a little bit more. But you do say there's a gameplay trailer. We'll have to check a little bit of that out. So.
I think the best release handling that I can remember, regardless of what the final product was, because it wasn't as great as I wanted it to be, was Fallout 4. June 2015, nobody had ever heard of Fallout 4. Nobody knew that it was in development. Nobody'd seen anything of it. Todd comes on stage. It just works. Blah, 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 blah. Here's a bunch of gameplay from this game. It's coming out in November. And it came out in November. And it was exactly what they showed. Perfect.
Yeah.
Like, give me that every time. I don't need to know about it 5 years in advance.
Wasn't Red Dead 2 kind of handled similarly? Like, we didn't hear anything until release year, and then it all seemed to trickle, and boom, 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 released.
Yeah.
Exactly as we expected. It was great. It was awesome, just like we saw in all the trailers and all the footage.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, developers, you're on notice. We don't want any of that horse shit anymore. Just show us what the game actually is, and don't tell us it's coming out until you know it's coming out.
Yeah, just the slick CGI trailers haven't tested well for a couple of years. Maybe it's time to put them out to pasture.
And you'll save a few bucks. You'll save quite a bit of money if you just show us some gameplay. 5-10 minutes. Just roll it out there. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't need the expensive fancy trailers.
Arguably 10 to 15 seconds of dialogue over a black screen followed by the logo, just as effective as a big CG trailer, if not more.
Yeah, it tells us about as much.
Yeah. Anyways, I think that'll probably do it for this here episode of Press X the podcast. Episode 16 of the Face season. With 3 faces. Amazing. This is rare. This is remarkable. We're all looking styling, profiling.
It's good quality. Good.
Oof.
I like it.
So sharp.
It's good quality.
So thanks for hanging out, guys. That was a good time. And James,
yeah, thank you.
Wow, you can really move your hair with your eyebrows.
I'm jealous. As someone that has no hair and has to wear hats, I'm jealous. Definitely jealous. I wasn't blessed with those genes. Just
that amount of
the
motion.
hair went.
Woo!
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
It's going places.
So, listeners, viewers, thanks you very much for hanging out. Between now and our next podcast, check out what we do. CODconnected.com. On the Twitter, on the YouTube, on the Facebook, on the Instagram, all the places. Check out the stuff.
Everywhere.
Reviews, previews, features, cosplay, news. We got it all. You'll find it on CODconnected.com. So
I thought you almost said nudes there. I'm like, no, we don't have nudes.
No.
No nudes. No nudes. News. Yes.
Yes, no nudes.
No nudes.
We would have troubles with the Googles if we
Yeah,
if
the
we went
Googles
that
wouldn't
route.
like that. Nope, neither would the PRs.
Yeah,
the
they
PR
wouldn't like
people. They wouldn't like that. Nope.
So yeah, until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Peace out. Bye. Hey.